Why, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is Mr. Dogboat333, and welcome back to Hearts of Iron for Kaiserredux, as, for now, the US of A. Last video, the Black Monday market crash hit us like a truck, and so we're trying to pick up the pieces, if we can even pick up anything. Probably not. So we're gonna hang in as best as we can till the elections and then see what happens. When the RNC has not occurred yet, some of the leaders of the Republican Party are fearful that they will lose the upcoming election due to the bad health of Charles Curtis. The liberal wing of the party is pushing to switch Curtis for Landon to distance ourselves from the old guard. Meanwhile, a group of conservative Republicans are pushing for both Hoover and the Republican leadership to run the president again in the upcoming election. The leadership of the Republican Party are still willing to stick with Curtis despite the health concerns, but these whispers must be addressed if he wants to become the next president. We would be insane to switch now. We're keeping Curtis. Alright, so St. Patrick's Day flood. Let's see. 16th of March, 1936. Warmer than usual temperatures led to the melting of large amounts of snow and ice on the upper Allegheny and Monongahela rivers. These rivers and their tributaries had already overflowed their banks and were soon threatening the city of Pittsburgh. On the 17th of March, the waters reached the flood stage of 25 feet. Then overnight, heavy rain caused the water to rise even higher. On March 18th, the water peaked at about 46 feet, 21 feet above the flood stage. This was such a disaster in the city's history, and local authorities have already requested federal aid. And helping people. There goes the Pope Man. Martial law in Algiers, interesting. Southern West. Yes. The Democratic Party has nominated the Texas representative John Nance Garner, whose political clout was derived from being the Speaker of the House the past 2 years. Garner is a well-known anti-radical who won the nomination on the back of two promises: to preserve the economic progress made by Wilson and to preserve liberty at all costs. As Wilson remains controversial even within the party, this raised a fair amount of debate and angered members of the party who felt Garner was too conservative and out of touch to be president. Nonetheless, he has much more support than not within what remains of a Democratic Party that's increasingly being absorbed by either the old Democrats or on its right wing, or the FP and progressives on its left. Garner's promise to preserve democracy without giving in to any form of radicalism and denouncing those who would give extreme compromises to them is appealing to many fearful of America's increasing political instability. Damn Democrats. Oh, do we have more focuses we can do? I'm guessing we do. Let's go ahead and reintroduce Wagner wage bill. Originally vetoed in 1932, the economic situation in America has deteriorated to the point where employment relief efforts are seen as the only way to prevent widespread collapse. President Hoover has indicated to the Democrats in Congress that this time he will not veto the relief bill. Determination is made by President Hoover that, unlike in 1932, this time he will not veto the bill. Democratic Senator Robert Wagner and Speaker of the House John Nance Garner have reintroduced an employment relief legislation package. Many in Congress feel that this package does not go nearly far enough, while others wonder how America, in the midst of a massive economic crisis, will possibly ever pay for it. The presence of senators from the FP and SBA also complicates things immensely. Even if Hoover's pledge, it's unknown if Wagner has a real chance of passing, but we will see. Major scandals have broken out in Ohio to the point of grabbing national attention even in these trying times. It appears a notorious political organization called the Ohio Gang, led by Ohio Governor Harry M. Daugherty, has come under investigation for selling firearms from their armory to nearby militias with the aid of bootlegger George Remus. After one of the affected armories, officers broke down a questioning regarding missing supply shipments. Lima Daugherty fixer Jess Smith acted as the middleman. This scandal is further damaging the reputation of the established political class, despite Hoover being a foe of the group. Perhaps we should denounce them to distance ourselves further, albeit at the cost of incurring powerful political foes. Denounce these madmen. Stanley Cup. Toronto versus Detroit. Come on, Detroit. Fuck. Dirty Canucks. Alright. As expected, the early challenges of Garner Wagner Bill have come from the AFP and the SBA. He, along as the AFP senators, have demanded a vast increase in Social Security provisions the bill provides. Provisions most other senators say America can never afford. Haywood and the SBA, meanwhile, say the bill doesn't do enough to protect the average worker, particularly from exploitation by struggling corporations. Both parties have attracted a lot of media attention, adding to the general sense of disorder and tension in Congress. Interesting. Vocally opposing the Home Rule plan is empowering extremist elements in the country. Longtime liberal Nebraska senator and respected statesman George Norris accepted the Progressive Party's nomination for president, a party that began as a breakaway from the Republican faction, disaffected by the GOP's conservative handling of the economy since the Great Depression, saying the problems in the American political system was a symptom of unfair economic policies and a lack of opportunity. Norris endorsed a massive project to reinvest in poor communities and work with union leaders to not only stabilize the country, but make it truly fair. Liberal Democrats, disaffected by the nomination of Garner, have shown interest in his message. Damn splitters. I would not want to be the Republicans right now. Oop. Polish military seizes control. Same in Mexico. Although they're not syndicalist. Question mark. I don't know what's going to happen here. But yeah. Anyway, we got some special elections. Following the death of Senator Wesley Lloyd, the special election has been called in Washington to fill his seat. The frontrunners are SBA activist John F. McCain and Democratic Congressman John Main Coffey. Polls are just closing. The winner appears to be John Main Coffey, the Democratic Party. Following Senator Harry Moore's resignation in order to run for governor, special election has been called in New Jersey. Selects a replacement. Frontrunners are Democrat John Gerald Milton and old Democratic supporter Charles Lindbergh. Polls are just closing. The winner appears to be... I think I have a choice between basically two different Democrats. We'll say Gerald Milton. Uh-oh. Shortly after somehow was successfully making bail, Jess Smith was found dead in his apartment. It appears to be a suicide by gunshot. Of course, few are believing the story, and it's now made the so-called Springfield Scandal, named for the rifle-off and stolen militia group, into an even greater sensation. Perhaps we should further investigate his death to calm fears that the political system is utterly corrupt, even if doing so will partially vindicate various radical populists already spouting conspiracies around the subject, such as Coughlin, Gerald Burton Winrod, and Smedley Butler. Sent in the FBI. Smedley Butler. I don't know if he would be so vocal about this. I don't know, though. Alright. After weeks of negotiations, a number of staff and senators have broken ranks over the coming vote of Garner-Wagner bill. Most notably, Robert Wagner, one of the bill's proposers, says he will not vote for the bill unless protections for federal employment insurance are re-added. Many other Democrat and Republican senators are concerned about the influence of the FB and SBA, claim they will not vote for the bill if any concessions are made to either group, though others say that not cutting out the AFB or SBA will make passage difficult or not possible. President Hoover will need to intervene in order to save the bill. Let's support Wagner and the establishment senators. And then nominating Quentin Roosevelt. Since the nomination of Senator Norris as a progressive presidential candidate, politically minded have discussed with great interest for the VP candidate. Finally putting the rumors to rest, Quentin Roosevelt was announced as a VP for the progressive ticket yesterday in New York City. This announcement, he emphasized wanting to help bring major reforms to the country through a plan called the Fair Deal. The nomination is a shock to the Republican political class, whom don't care to see the descendants of a popular president joining another party when he had a bright future at the GOP, perhaps remembering the results of Theodore Roosevelt's founding the original Progressive Party and splitting the ticket as a result. A deal that is fair, and a deal that is square. Panama's pressuring Costa Rica. Well, let's go ahead and intervene. Afghanistan lost over there. Big surprise. All right. May Day, International Workers' Day, is a holiday that the SBA celebrates with numerous parades and speeches and has since its founding. Generally, things are peaceful, though there have been more confrontations with the police. However, this time things are more violent than usual. Clashes between the socialists and local police, backed up by the FP and the ODP, have occurred around the country. The question is, who's at fault? Socialists declare that things were peaceful till the protests and the KKK arrived on the scene. The old Democrats are saying that the socialists began by assaulting non-unionized workers and have blurred photos that they claim are the guns the SBA were brandishing. Police were at fault. I don't know. Panama backs down. Beautiful. Both Hugh Long's AFP and Bill Haywood's SBA have reacted with fury at President Hoover's endorsement of establishment senators. They vow to sink the Garner Wagner Bill, claiming that the public is being deceived by a corrupt government which refuses to recognize the reality in America. While the parties have both gained a considerable boost in support from their base, Democratic and Republican fortunes have improved somewhat. There's a feeling that both have a better chance going in the next election, provided the bill actually passes. Let's hope it does. Uh-oh. Excuse me? Okay, then Mexico's... I'll have to keep an eye on Mexico. In a massive rally in Sacramento with leading members from Republican and Democratic parties, Vice President Charles Curtis himself came out to accept his nomination as Republican presidential candidate. This massive rally has been surprisingly well received by the press and those attending it. Hopefully it'll translate to election results. Let's pray that this helps us. Former President A. Mitchell Palmer died of heart complications today, shortly after receiving an appendectomy. The establishment parties gave statements expressing grief for his death. The other parties and much of the public seem to be ambivalent about his death and not issuing any statements at all. The SBA stands alone in practically openly celebrating his death, stating that Palmer was a tyrant whose two-term presidency after taking over for Wilson was responsible for the America's current state and the attacks on union workers. The ODP appear to approve of Palmer's Red Scare and have issued a statement thanking him for his efforts, although they repudiate his more liberal statements. Long himself barely commented, only saying that Palmer was a flawed man. Oh, very, very well. The old Democrats have officially announced their expected candidates for this year's presidential race, denouncing the more centrist conservative wing of the Democratic Party and its liberal members as sellouts, Republican industrialists, Catholics, Jewish money, and Washington bureaucrats at their convention. Originally faction formed as a reaction to the growth of syndicalism and a reinvigorated civil rights movement, it also gained strength as a result of Wilson and A. Mitchell Palmer encouraging of seemingly increasingly radical forms of anti-socialism during the first Red Scare. Republican tariffs during the Great Depression that have harmed agriculture have led to greater support for the movement. Today, they have declared their nominee for president to be their longtime de facto leader and governor of Oklahoma, William H. Murray, who said that he's running a campaign against communist corporates and miscegenation. He received support from the Fordist Democrats, an informal name for a group of national corporatists and urban-based Northern Democrats led by Charles Lindbergh and Harry Ford, as well as the Klan and their affiliates within the National Democratic White League. Not even more radical candidates. Shit. This is going to be one heck of an election. Oh. Assassination attempt occurred on ODP vice presidential candidate John E. Rankin when an anarchist fired at him from a crowd. For some time, the violence has been mostly between the supporters of the radical parties. However, recently the violence is now reaching the candidates and politicians themselves. Failed attempts on lives of both Huey Long and Bill Haywood have occurred in the past few months. Both gunmen shooting from a crowd. Both have failed, and both resulted in higher security. Several more politicians have been stabbed during a campaign rally. Moreover, voters from both extremes are turning a blind eye to the violence done to their enemies. Great, more violence. Malta secures independence. Well, shucks. After an incredibly close vote in Congress, the Garner-Wagner Bill failed to pass. While several groups are declaring personal victory, protests have broken out in various parts of the country. There will be no relief for the American worker, and many have declared the government to be corrupt and dysfunctional. There will be considerable time for blame, but for the moment, the Hoover government's concerns must turn to the growing violence throughout American cities. Violence which is expected to only worsen in the months leading up to the election. All that for nothing. Well, the bill's failed. The Garner-Wagner Bill has failed to pass, which leaves America without a clear route towards recovery. For growing uncertainty, it will need to be addressed. Did I just change portraits? Well, it's time to sacrifice what little popularity we... do I want to do this, actually? Because it will strengthen the U.S. I think I'll just, I don't want to do any more focuses from here. This is already kind of a good prelude to what we're going to be doing. Also, this is fascinating to me. The New Katana's doing their own thing, it seems. Wait. Go back. Oh, shit. Yeah. Look at that. Well, I mean, they're starting off okay. It's not going to end okay, but they're starting okay. Democrats and Republicans fighting among themselves. As usual, more and more Americans are feeling alienated from the traditional Big Two and are flocking to the populist AFP, Old Democrats, and SBA throughout the country. In these dark times, distinctions between genuine social reforms and graft is hard to distinguish. Those under radical banner in the political enclaves have received some social welfare with share wealth donations from the AFP, and national red aid from the SBA, the machine handouts, and white league protection from the Old Democrats. The party machine of these radicals utilizes mass media to a much stronger degree than either the Republicans or Democrats. It's looking more and more like the 1936 election will come down to Haywood, Murray, or Long. Not great. And then what is... what is going on there? What? A heat wave has struck the continental U.S. and Canada. The most severe heat wave in modern history of the United States. A great heat wave started in late June and went up to over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 38 Celsius, as drought conditions worsened due to a continued lack of rain. Now in July, the heat has reached an all-time record. In Steele, North Dakota, temperatures have reached 121 Fahrenheit. In Ohio, temperatures have reached 110 Fahrenheit, which is close to tying a record set in 1934. This comes in a time of major political unrest with American First Councils, a major force in Midwest politics, and socialist and syndicalist forces gathering strength in the Great Lakes region. The drought is continuing, and over 3,000 reported deaths have been linked to it. Many people are suffering from heat strokes and heat exhaustion. Farmers across the continent saw their worst harvest on record, causing corn and wheat prices to skyrocket, and this heat wave did not seem to be giving up anytime soon. This is just not our year. Yep, there goes Poland. Today in the small border town of Derby Line, Vermont, representatives of both Canadian and exiled British governments met with the governors of the 6 New England states as well as the governor of New York in a paradoxically highly covered yet incredibly confidential meeting, chosen due to its being contiguous with Rock Island, Quebec. Derby Line is one of the few towns in the nation where the border divides it in two. Perhaps the most famous building in Derby Line is a Haskell Free Library and Opera House, built directly on the border by a binational couple. Haskell was built as a place where Americans or Canadians could come together and enjoy a quiet place of learning and culture, which is why it was chosen to host the meeting. The meeting itself, far from the first time state officials had met with foreign dignitaries, was officially to discuss cultural exchange programs, economic matters, and similar topics. However, rumors circulate that the meeting was simply a cover for New Englander stakes to coax Canada to occupying or even outright annexing the region. The reason for this, rumors go, is due to a want to save their own skins should the political conflict in the rest of the country escalate to a civil war. Due to the nature of these rumors and due to the fact that the meeting content has been and remains private, even to the federal government, President Hoover personally demanded an explanation. When pressed, various governors have confirmed that the meeting really was simply discuss more mundane matters, though various contingency plans, should the rest of the nation fall to war, were discussed. When pressed by President Hoover exactly what these contingencies might entail, the governors refused to elaborate and left the question unanswered. When in a situation like this, normally the FBI or similar agency could be put on a case, but with such unparalleled political chaos, all resources are tied up trying to keep the nation together. With this being the case, nothing can be spared, thus we are forced to live with this vague answer that we have received. Keep a close eye on New England. I think I might go for a little longer, actually. Another 3 minutes. Let's do it. Let us do it. Uh-oh. Even as the nation progresses further and further in political conflict and strife, some small elements of normality still remain. By far the largest of these remnants of sanity is the music industry, which has seen a rise in popularity as people search for ways to escape from the grueling reality. One of the most popular new faces in the music scene is Francis Albert Sinatra, or simply Frank Sinatra. Born December 12, 1915, Sinatra made his debut with the Hoboken Four, though his big break was when he appeared on the Major Bow's Amateur Hour radio broadcast. As his popularity grows, he has begun to do acts with the famed band leaders Tommy Dorsey and Harry James. While still only a youth of 21, Sinatra is on his way to become a household name, especially in the greater New England region. Regardless, Sinatra is just one example of the way American people are coping with struggles of depression, and also a sign that perhaps better times are on the horizon after all. We'll watch your career with great interest. Well, that was fun. Of course, we can't just have that. It has to get messier from here. Emmett T Anderson, Republican Lieutenant Governor of Washington State, was killed when he exited his home, and 2 assassins exited their vehicle out front and gunned him down with 38 revolvers. Anderson was a supporter of civil rights in the region. The KKK-affiliated Royal Riders of Red Robe are strongly rumored to have committed the act. An auxiliary of the KKK for white Anglo-Saxons, whom were not technically naturalized American citizens, most of the Red Riders are Canadian-born supporters of a Klan whose leader, J. Arthur Herndon, was increasingly opposed to Anderson's policies, said to have made threatening references to him in speeches. While killings are not new to the Second Klan, it's rare for them to successfully target such a high-ranking and beloved official, and unsurprisingly there are demands to investigate the group, despite Hiram Wesley Evans and William Joseph Simmons denying any connection to killing and downplaying the Royal Riders' involvement with the National White League. While the most militaristic White Leaguers supported the act in Washington state itself, the violence has backfired, with many turning out to the state to mourn the loss of Anderson and support his memory as a fair-minded man. Let's hit the Klan. Yeah. Summer heat has turned into violence and blood as cities, starting with Charleston, South Carolina, throughout the country engage in bloody, radical riots as whites beat up blacks and burned black businesses. The number of lynchings that occurred throughout the country spiked during the summer. In response to the African Blood Brotherhood and other elements of the SBA and CSA begun arming and fighting back. The SBA has defended their actions and have published blurry photos that claim show old Democrat members in lynch mobs. Can this year get any worse? If you have to ask that question, it is going to get worse. That's how the universe works. Anyhow, I'm leaving it there. Thanks for watching. Like, dislike if you didn't. Leave a comment, react down in the comment section below. And you all know, I think you all know the deal by now. This fucking Nat Pop guy again. Really? Okay. Sure. Check my various links to the sub button if you want to keep up to date with uploads weekdays as well as occasionally Saturdays. And yeah, I'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye.